My gold digger mother-in-law called me cheap and stingy because of the ring I bought her daughter. She took it back real quick once I canceled the wedding. I recently proposed to my girlfriend in the most romantic way I could think of. We had been dating for 3 years, and I wanted to spend the rest of my life with her. She is perfect, literally an angel in every sense. But there has always been a thorn in our relationship. The first time I met her parents, her mother said, "I thought you said he was well off, but that car is a piece of trash." Now, I do have other cars, but that day, I decided to pick a comfortable model because I was going on a trip later. That being said, I didn't give her any attention and just tried to impress them in other ways. The entire time, she kept commenting about how my looks weren't my strong point, and it really rubbed me off the wrong way. When we left, my girlfriend apologized to me, but I know that her mother's actions aren't her fault, and didn't blame her. Though I wish that was the last time. Whenever I would visit them, my future mother-in-law would always end up mentioning my money, and how that was the only reason my girlfriend was even dating me. There were several arguments over this, and one time I even told her, I can burn all my money right now, and she still wouldn't leave me, because we love each other. To my surprise, she became really docile after that and stopped commenting about me. I hope that she had realized I loved her daughter, and was trying to be the best man for her sake. Anyway, I decided to propose to my girlfriend last month, and took her to Switzerland for a romantic getaway. I made sure we had a moment where we were watching the sunset alone, and got on one knee. She had told me early on in a relationship about what kind of ring she would want, and I had gotten her exactly that. She said yes, and my heart literally jumped around in my chest with excitement. We spent the rest of the trip in our hotel room just talking about our future, and how much we wanted to marry each other. When we got home, she said she wanted to show her ring to her parents and friends, so I dropped her off at her mother's house. I was looking forward to planning the wedding, and then watching her walk down the aisle towards me. But out of nowhere, my mother-in-law made a post on Facebook saying some really horrible stuff about me. She said that the ring I had bought for her daughter was worth less than her clothes, and that the diamond looked like a small stone that I picked up from the street. Then she began going on a rant, saying that I am a cheap man who never does anything nice for his girl even though he's got plenty of money. That wasn't even close to the truth, and I wanted to argue, but then I kept on reading. She started explaining how I had never bought a car for my girl or her parents, which was apparently something that I'm supposed to do. Also, remember that we hadn't even made our engagement public yet, so this was the first time everyone was hearing about this. They most likely believed what she was saying, and supported her in the comments. She also called me stingy, and said that I should immediately buy a bigger ring for my now fiancé or she won't allow the marriage to happen. The first thing I wanted to do was tell her that it's not up to her to decide if the marriage is happening or not. But although I was angry, I decided to not take any rash decisions and just call my girlfriend to talk about it. I asked her if she had seen the post and saw what horrible things her mother was saying about me. To my absolute surprise, my girlfriend said, "I mean, she's not wrong. The ring is pretty small after all." I was appalled and said I thought that's what she wanted. But she told me that it was just a joke, and she would have preferred if I had gotten a bigger diamond out of my own volition. In her opinion, she was hoping that I would buy her the most expensive ring I could afford, but now she couldn't even brag properly to her friends. At that point, I just had to cut the call because my head was boiling over. I don't know why my girlfriend was letting her mother manipulate her like this, because that was something she wouldn't normally say. After I reached home, I sat down on the couch and had to hold back my tears. I genuinely thought that she loved me, but now I was no longer sure that I could marry her. Because I realized that if I did, I would have to deal with her mother berating me for my entire life. I was afraid that if I confronted them, I would end up saying something I'd regret, so I just made a Facebook post. I said that regardless of my mother-in-law's comments, proposing to my girlfriend was a mistake and that I can't go through with the wedding anymore. I got bombarded with phones from my mother-in-law and my fiancé, and at first I wasn't going to pick up. But I realized that ignoring them wasn't a mature way to act, so I decided to man up and talk about the issue. When I picked up the phone, I could hear my fiancé crying in the background. My mother-in-law immediately began apologizing and said that she didn't mean what she said. But I pointed out how she had made those comments previously as well, and that she was never actually interested in me beyond my money. It was then that she also broke into tears, and began begging me to not break up with her daughter. That her daughter deserved the luxurious lifestyle I could provide her with, and I shouldn't take that away from her. However, my mind was made up and there was nothing I could do anymore. I only proposed to her in the first place because I thought she loved me for who I was, not for my money. So I told them, "You're right, your daughter does deserve all that. But I also deserve someone who cares for me and won't insult me over everything. So I hope she can find someone else, because I am done." I quit my job of 6 years just to prove to senior management how useless and incompetent my manager was, and it worked. I started my last job in 2017. I was a part-time warehouse worker who over a few years was promoted into a transport admin/management role. I and another colleague ran our department between us, only really reporting to our then line manager if we needed support with any part of our job, or time off, etc., but other than that he trusted us completely to run things. It wasn't without its stressful days, but we had a perfect thing going. Then in 2021, the business made some changes, moved our then line manager to different departments, and got a new, designated manager just to manage us two in our department. We were naturally quite bitter about it but thought we'd give him a chance. He turned out to be an absolute control freak and a bully. But he was strange. He could be very supportive one minute, then a manipulative bully the next. He loved poking fun at the fact I had a car accident last year. He loved solely targeting me for the bad jobs and loved causing trouble between me and other colleagues. Then in March this year, my girlfriend fell ill whilst pregnant and was forced to give birth to our son 6 weeks prematurely. It was quite an awful, traumatic time and I ended up having 3 weeks off work. When I returned, I had a mountain of work to catch up on that nobody covered in my absence. Followed by me trying to catch up on it, and my manager pulled me away to do other projects for him, when his other 2 staff members weren't doing anything, then when my work was late, was forever kicking off at me that I couldn't manage my time properly, etc. etc. Then in May he made a significant mistake and pinned the blame on me for it. It caused issues between me and 2 colleagues I had to work closely with, and I was threatened with disciplinary action. Then I just got thinking to myself, without me running his department, he is nothing. Without me, he wouldn't have a job. Without me, he wouldn't be able to explain what was going on with his department to senior management. How I ran his department for him on half of his salary, he takes all the glory and we get all of the grief. I had one last run-in with him over this mistake he'd made and handed my formal notice to him the following day. It was funny over those 4 weeks of serving my notice, just watching him slowly take over my responsibilities and struggle with them. Those responsibilities that he often told me I don't even know what you do during the day. He had to do the horrible jobs he used to pile on me. And on my final day in June, I told my colleagues that I'd give him 3 months before he either quit or got fired. Within the first few weeks, the department massively failed its monthly audit, which sparked the attention of company directors, who were sent in to investigate as this had never happened before. Then, a month later, I was on holiday and had one of the senior managers ringing me and texting me asking for passwords for systems, as my line manager had gone on holiday and hadn't organized anything. I ignored him because I didn't work there anymore and I was on holiday. Then he kept continuing to make mistakes. He hadn't ordered essential items, which caused trouble for the site. He didn't have a clue about the job in question as I originally was out to prove. Then a month after that, he was suspended from his duties pending further investigation, as management finally realized he couldn't do his job in question. A month after that, management claimed he quit with immediate effect. I think he was fired. But either way, my 3 months prediction was right, and he couldn't run that shift without me. It is petty revenge quitting a job to prove a point, but it proves the point. Good riddance. I now run my own business, have a much better work/life balance, earning more than I could ever dream of in that place, and life is fantastic. I used my meal plan to feed over 120 less fortunate people. This happened during my freshman year of college about 20 years ago. My university had just invested in a big new dining hall, and to help pay for their investment required all new students to buy a 150 meal plan for both semesters. This was a big financial burden being from a lower middle-class family, but my parents pooled funds to help me out and make it happen. Shortly into my first semester, I found out from friends that the meals you didn't use didn't roll over. Since I lived off campus I knew I wouldn't be able to use them all. Heading into November I realized I would end up with 60 to 75 meals left over, and I complained about this a lot to family and friends because it seemed like such a waste. In comes the plan. My freshman year of college was also my cousin's senior year and we hung out pretty often. He was the biggest trickster/prankster type you ever met. One night while we were drinking he said, "What if you brought a bunch of homeless people to use up your meals? How much would that piss off those self-righteous jerk?" We laughed all night, but the more I thought about the idea, the more I started to like it. We talked all weekend about it and hatched a plan. On Monday morning we went down to the local Salvation Army around the corner. I have grown to despise this organization, but in the early 2000s in small towns USA it's what we had. We told the lady at the desk I would like to feed people in need with my meal plan. She was hesitant at first but said she was working with people that this would be a huge blessing too, especially during the holiday season. She helped me organize 2 days the following week where around 30 people would meet me to eat at the dining hall. I would wear a certain hat so they could find me, and we would go eat. The day finally arrived and all kinds of people were there. There were homeless people in tattered clothes. There were families with kids that seemed excited to eat out. There was even one family I will always remember that seemed embarrassed to take a handout, but I made an effort to talk to everybody and make them feel welcome. At noon we headed into the dining hall. I walked up to the lady at the entrance and said, "These people are with me. They are my friends. I would like to swipe them in." She looked confused but reluctantly said okay. To say we got every reaction humanly possible would be an understatement. There were staff that were annoyed with the influx of diners. Some students were laughing. Some students were giving me the silent clap. There were snobbish faculty members who seemed to be disgusted at the type of people coming into the dining hall. I didn't care at all. Eventually, a head staff member came up and said they knew what I was doing and they didn't like it. I said, "These are my friends eating with me. I paid for these meals. Am I doing anything wrong?" She was stumped. The next day the same situation happened with the same reactions. It seemed that I had caused quite a stir on campus, and it just so happened that the university president was eating there that day. She came up to me and said even though she would ask that I not tell my friends to do the same thing with their meals as the staff couldn't handle the influx of diners, she was proud that her students had the heart to do something for others like that. The following semester I did the same thing. I even used my meals sparingly so I could bring more people. The one memory that will always stick out in my head is the family with the little kids so excited to go to the pizza bar and soft serve ice cream machine giggling the whole time. To this day it's still one of the proudest moments of my life. I and my friends and family still have a drink and chuckle over the story and the snooty, angry reactions I got.